Hey everybody, this is Dave from the Dave in the Morning Show. Make sure you tune in every Saturday at 5 p.m. for the one and only Marty Angler with Angling Water Outdoors, right here on WHIW 101.3 FM in Harvard, baby. I said moo.
Hey, this is Marty Angler, and if you're not doing anything later tonight, you know it's Saturday night, come back at 11 p.m. Beardo's Roadhouse. That's where we'll play till 1 a.m. You know, we play the jams you want to hear, and if not, listen anyway, because they're jams you want to hear. Right here on WHIW 101.3 FM, Harvard Broadcasting.
Hey, this is Man Moorigger from UFO Buster Radio, and when I'm not out blowing up aliens and UFOs, oh, that was close, I'm listening to Angling Waters Outdoors with Marty Angler. I pick up some great fishing tips for those moments when things are not so hectic with these aliens from 4.2 far. So if you want to get some good fishing tips, you need to check out Angling Waters Outdoors. Enjoy the show, because I'm going to bag me an ET right about now. Hasta la vista, baby.
Welcome to the Angling Waters Outdoors Show with your guide and host, Marty Angler.
I lack ambition, think I'd rather go fishing.
The Green Hornet's caught more fish than you've lied about, Gustafson.
Okay, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Marty Angler back with you this week. Hey, well, you know, it's a little bit warm, a little bit crazy, but we still try to get some fishing done. And with that being said, we have a special guest today. Yeah, I will let you know who he is in a second, because it's a secret. You know what I'm saying?
Seriously, right?
Oh, surely, I'm serious.
When you look at that poor man.
No poor man today. No poor man.
Dilly.
Yeah, that's right.
The Green Hornet's caught more fish than you've lied about, Gustafson.
And we're going to bring him in just a second. Okay, well, we got a very special guest today. And let me tell you, you're going to enjoy this one. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk fishing, and, well, we may even talk aliens. My guest at this time is Big O from UFO Buster Radio. Hey, Big O, how's it going, buddy?
What's going on? Big O in the house. Big O in the house. What's going on, everybody?
All right. We're going to talk some fishing. Now, what kind of fishing do you do, Big O?
Well, I was based in Tampa, Florida, so I did a lot of freshwater and saltwater fishing. So I had my taste of, the ocean life, salt life, and did a lot of bass fishing. But now I live in North Dakota, and I am struggling.
You're struggling?
I am struggling with the walleye, the pike. Well, not really the pike, but the walleye, the white bass, and trout. I don't know. I'm trying to learn.
Trout, the easiest way I've ever learned to catch trout is with a fly. So if you've done any fly fishing,
never.
That'll help. If you haven't, well, might want to find somebody to teach you. But, hey, I'm here to show you there's another way to do that, too. Get you some light fluorocarbon, about 4 feet, maybe 2 pound, 4 pound, and put a bobber about maybe 20 inches up. Tie you a little fly on the back end of that, cast it out, and just slowly reel it back.
Really?
Yeah. I learned a lot from old people, let me tell you. This one guy, he sat there and he says, "You catch all kinds of fish with a bobber and a fly. He says, all you got to do is reel it back real slow. The kind where you get no wake. I was like, oh, okay. I thought he was pulling my leg until I caught 27 crappies while everybody was standing around looking at me like I was crazy. How are you catching those fish? Slow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady. It's like smoking meat. You gotta go low and slow, baby.
Yeah. I just bought me a smoker too.
Low
That's
and
a hard
slow.
curveball. Yeah.
We'll have to. You'll have to send me your email address, and I'll send you all the recipe books I got.
Oh, you see, man, I'm glad I called today.
There you go. Personally, I loved. In fact, I made some smoked pork country ribs yesterday.
Okay.
And they're probably about 6 inches long and probably about an inch thick. And I put them on yesterday morning during the Dave in the Morning show. And I pulled them off about 2:30. I wrap them up in a blanket, or I put them in tin foil, and then I wrap them in a blanket, and then I throw them in a cooler and let them sit for a while. Oh, they were so tender and juicy. I had another one today. Oh, that was so good.
Nice. If I ever get some time off, because I'm, truck life.
Yeah.
If I ever get some time off, I turn on the smoker, and everybody's in my apartment complex is happy.
Oh yeah. So, you know what? You get lots of friends that way.
Yeah, automatically. I don't know what it is.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn you on to a little bit to a group that I'm associated with. It's called Barbecue Pit Boys. I have my own chapter. It's the Beardos Barbecue, and they're on YouTube, so go ahead and check them out. They do a lot of smoking and grilling.
Nice.
Barbecue Pit Boys. So anyway, we're getting a little straight off, but that's okay. So
it's okay.
How often do you fish?
Every chance I get. Every free opportunities, either, I don't fish on the traditional Saturday, Sundays. I fish whenever time I got off. If I have 2 days off in a row, one of those days I'm fishing.
Well, that's the way it should be. Now,
yep.
I have to ask the pertinent question. Spin cast or bait cast?
Oh, I tried bait cast for a really long time, and I kept on getting the infamous bird nest. And I found out that it wasn't until recently that I had to really educate myself through the powers of YouTube that I wasn't setting the weight right on the bait cast, which is why it was creating a bird's nest with the lure that I was using. So, but I favor spin casts.
I do too at times, especially when I'm throwing plastic worms. But I love throwing bait casts with crankbaits. And sometimes, if it's a heavy enough bait, I'll throw something else at. But I use like 8 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot rods too. I don't use 6'6" rods. So
yeah,
a little backlash there. Is you got to be careful with those. But if you set that brake on that thing, all you do is adjust. I turn the brake all the way up, and then I set the amount of line I let out by the dial on the side behind the drag. Much easier. And if you set it to where it just hits the ground and turns maybe one turn, you'll backlash very less.
Okay. Well, that's what the YouTube person says, that whatever weight bait you're using or lure, when you let it go, it should only turn like maybe half a turn to one turn, and then it won't be as bad. But when you cast it, once it hits the water, it was safer for you to just put your thumb on it, so that way it doesn't still, because you're throwing it with force,
right?
And that inertia will carry through the line and spin the bait cast. So yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah, you just get used to doing that, and in fact, if you put braid on, some real good braids, when you cast, you can actually let it go just a little bit farther before you put that thumb on it, and then you get farther casts. And you get better hookups too that way. So, little tricks that you learn as you go along. So,
little tricks, yep.
Yeah. So
it's little things.
You a live bait fisherman or do you plastics, crankbaits?
Well, when I was in Florida, I went from live bait to strictly crankbaits and lures and plastics. I don't know. I had this mentality of I'm not a true fisherman unless I could trick the fish to bite a hook. So
that's a way to go too. Yeah.
And that was that. Yeah, because I give you an example. Little tidbit of me. How I learned how to bass fish was a grueling misunderstanding of bass fish at first. I thought bass fish was stupid. Actually, they're really smart. Really, really smart. And I used to live in an apartment complex, and they stocked the pond for bass and said, you can fish as much as you want in Florida. That means I could fish when I get home every day.
Right.
So that's exactly what I did. Coming home was like a mini vacation for me. I would get home, get my fishing reel, go out there, fish. Manny has many pictures of me catching 4-pound, 5-pound, 6-pound fish, bass, all day long.
And speaking of Manny, I did have to talk to him and tell him, terrible fisherman, really?
Yeah, he is.
He did a great intro for me, but he can't fish. Come on.
he is the worst fisherman I have ever seen in my life.
And he admits it. That's the funny part.
And you know what's this is the thing that kills me. Me and him have gone fishing, I don't know, countless times. Mm-hmm. Saltwater fishing. I can honestly say that the only thing I've ever seen him catch was a stingray with frozen squid. But other than that, I have never seen, and that was one time, I have never seen him catch anything else, ever. He is a true aspiring fisherman. Like he goes to the store, right? Uh-huh. And he looks at all the stuff, and the people market for him, his type of person, that he would look at a lure and says, "Ooh, pretty. I pick it up." Just put it in his little box, and he's good to go.
But he doesn't understand. People do that.
But in all reality, for a lot of fishermen and a lot of lures, right, 90% of the times the fish don't really see that variation of colors. No. So it's just like we're painting this way for the customer, not for the fish, because they're looking at the outside shape. So, I understand because I've done it at first, but then when I became more of a lure bass fisherman, I started to understand the dynamics and that they're really like predator fish, bully fish, like to ambush. And I was like, okay, now I'm starting to understand. And it took me 6 months of me living on that apartment complex. And it took one old guy who's been fishing there for like 3 years. He looked at my lure and he was like, "You're going to catch nothing with that." I'm like, huh?
Well, you'll catch one. You'll just catch one. You may catch one. That's about it.
Exactly. I tell you what, though, and if anybody's listening, or I'm sure there's tons of people listening, but if you're going to any pond that has bass in it, I'm gonna give away one of my secret lures that I use.
Okay.
Right, it's a almost a guarantee. Well, I'm gonna give you two.
Okay.
Right? 2 lures. The first lure is if you're a really beginner and you just want to catch fish just for the thrill of catching fish. Uh-huh. And it's a small little spinner bait that has a treble hook on it. Right? It's called the rooster tail.
Rooster tail. Inline spinner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can go to Walmart and buy it for $2.
Yeah. I see. I always push the Foxy Jigs. Oh my gosh, I hate when that happens. It's a number 2 Vibrex. That's my favorite go-to lure for any pond. If you don't know it, that's my go-to because you always seem to find little bait fish that size.
Right.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, what's your second lure?
The second lure is, and this blew my mind because I saw it on a YouTube video, and they told me that this is one of the cheapest lures you can buy, and it's at Walmart, and it destroys everything. And I'm like, no way. Walmart, come on. And it's a chatterbait.
Chatterbait, yeah.
Z chatterbait. And if you attach, and for whatever reason, to me, my color seems to be the electric blue. The electric blue, and if you could find a matching crawdaddy and put it at the end of it with the chatterbait, vibrating, and that crawdaddy, making its, vibration motion as well, I kid you not, I was reeling one in, and I let it sit, and I could clearly see it hit the bottom, and I saw like a gang of bass, 3 or 4 of them, just staring at it like, move. Go ahead and move. And I twisted it, and it was gone. I was like, whoa.
It's funny. If you get the same color plastic worm, it'll do the same thing. Certain colors at certain depths change color.
Yeah.
So black is really red when it gets deep, and red is it goes from blue to purple to black, and purple, an odd color because it's not a solid color, but purple is like in many clear lakes, purple's like the go-to color for everybody. If you ever watch the pros and you see them with a purple worm on, the lake has got clear water.
Really?
Yeah, I learned that fishing tournaments. And
see, the biggest lake I am next to is, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Lake Shakakawea. And it's a huge lake. Huge lake.
They do a lot of ice fishing out there.
Lots of ice fishing. And I'm sorry, you would never see me ice fish.
Really? Why not?
No.
Come on.
I'm not going to ice. No.
They drive on that stuff up there.
I can't swim. No, I'm good.
You'd be surprised. I've been on the lake when there was an inch of ice, and I was shocked that I didn't fall through. But I don't recommend it. 3 inches or more, I recommend.
I've seen the lake. I've seen that lake have 6 inches of ice. Yeah. Or more in some areas. And I see people driving their cars on the lake. And the big old ice house that sits down is like a trailer that sits down, and they're inside comfortable with the heat on, the TV on, and they have a drill that comes out of a little cabinet through the ceiling and comes down and drills the holes by itself. It does its own thing. And said, "You should come on." I'm like, "Nope."
Well, I got to tell you, Big O, I have a lot of fans in Minnesota, and they sell those trailers in Minnesota.
The Ice Chest. Ice Kings, yeah.
Yeah, those things are awesome. I would love to get one, but me in Northern Illinois, it's almost like I only use it for camping because I'd never be able to take it out on the ice. Very rarely do we get, 10 to 12 to 14 inches of ice, enough to take something like that out there. So, but I've got it too, man, and I enjoy it.
I'm gonna tell you, here in North Dakota, the theme is almost like Game of Thrones. Is like winter is coming. You get like 2 months of retarded heat, and after that it just starts cooling off, and next thing you know, -50, -60, and woof.
So how long do you plan on staying there?
Not long.
Not long. Not long. I like Florida much better, he says.
No, I don't. Actually, I would never permanently move back to Florida ever again. I got too many memories, both good and bad, and Florida is just a place to visit to me. I would love to have like maybe a summer home. I'll probably get like a houseboat.
That's a good idea.
In Florida.
Do you have a boat now?
No, I'm in an apartment now. Oh, okay. No, there's no point in having a boat out here. We'll get frozen. So no.
Well, you'd be able to fish for 2 months on a boat.
Yeah. No, if I was to get a boat up here, it would be like a pontoon party boat.
There you go. Something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So you fish from the bank a lot of times?
A lot of times I fish from the bank. I used to have a friend in Florida that we did a lot of kayak fishing, and I had many old adventures kayak fishing. I was able to hook on to a couple of tarpon on a kayak. I was able.
Be a hoot.
Oh, dude, it was fun.
Kayak fishing's getting really big. I remember when tube fishing used to be the thing, and then all of a sudden I see a guy, he's got a fishing show, and he's doing it in a kayak, and I'm like, very interesting. And then a friend of mine that I played softball with a few years back, Clay Guida, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was a MMA boxer, fighter, and he was on that show, and I was like, hey, I know him. But
you should be on my show.
Hey, it's like, come on, dude. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, he lives not far from me, and I haven't ran into him in I don't know how long, but when I do, he'll be on Angling Waters Outdoors, because I didn't know he fished. I'm sitting there, I was giving him grief. When we first met, I was giving him all kinds of grief, because he's not a very big physical guy. You look at him and you think, okay, he's a wrestler, but we were playing softball against his team, and he just couldn't get the concept of smacking the ball. He could hit it, but he couldn't really hit it. So I stopped. Now I'm playing against him, and I walked down and I said, Clay, you're a freaking wrestler, dude. Turn your hips. And I turn around and I said, I'm throwing you a meatball. Hit it as hard as you can, but turn your hips.
Right.
He kind of gave me this weird look. Then I threw the ball up, and he crushed it. And he said, oh, wow, that's easy. I said, you'll never get that pitch again, son. So when he was done, we were talking afterwards. But nice guy, but I got to see him on TV to know he's a bass fisherman. But that's okay. I didn't know you really fished because I've never heard Manny talk about fishing, and I know you guys were really close.
Actually, Manny told me to get in contact with you.
Did he?
Yeah, Manny's the one who told me to get in contact with you. What ended up happening was that he told me about your show, right? But this is all my fault. Manny told me about your show a long time ago when you first started your show, right?
Okay.
But I was in the transition of getting out of Florida, trying to get into my own. Then I settled down in North Dakota, and by the time everything finally caught up, I was like, I should get on Marty's show.
I remember you when you first called me, and like I said when we first started talking, I didn't have a clue who you were, because your voice isn't the same. And when we started talking here on Skype, it's like, oh yeah, that's Big O. So at first I was like, I don't know. All right, I'll let this guy out. I don't care. Somebody to talk to. And then we have this big show in the studio. And I didn't know I was going to get 20 people in the studio, which I loved, by the way.
Right.
So I wasn't able to hook up with you that day. Otherwise, the light would have went off, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's Big O.
Right.
And, so it's really great to get you on and talk to you about fish. I miss listening to you on UFO Buster Radio.
I really want to get back into it. Once again, life happened, and I had to put up my britches and get things going.
Sometimes you got to man up, okay? Sometimes
I
you gotta do it.
I am literally right now, as we speak, you probably hear in the background as I'm trying to multitask because this is my only day off, is I am building a computer desk as we speak. And I'm going to try my best to be back on UFO Buster Radio and talk about aliens, because I have a new outlook on how things are when it comes to aliens and UFOs.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, first of all, you're listening to WHIW 101.3 FM, and we're on with Big O today. This is Angling Waters Outdoors. I'm your host, Marty Angler, and we're talking fishing and kind of UFO stuff. Kind of, because have you fished at night?
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful, especially here.
Have you ever seen anything in the skies at night?
All the time.
Yeah, see? Now, I was out fishing with my son, who, we have the same name, but he was posting a lot of stuff on the UFO Buster Facebook page for a while. And I don't know if he still does or not because I don't get over there as much as I'd like to. But we're out fishing one day, and all of a sudden we see this orange light, and there's no noise. And we're watching this thing just kind of creep up over the trees and start over the top of the lake. So I started filming it. Of course, when you got a regular phone, it doesn't really capture. Yeah, at night it doesn't capture colors real well. So I videotaped it going over and stuff, and I posted it. And I was like, I don't know what it is, but it's awful quiet and it's awful low to the ground. And
hey, that's it. Yeah. That is the exact definition of a UFO.
I don't know what it is. That's exactly. And you know, we were out there on the lake one night, 4th of July, and everybody's blowing off their fireworks, and we see this thing come in. It kind of hovers, it drops down a little bit, and then shoots straight up in the air. And my wife goes, "Oh, that was a balloon." I go, "Okay."
No way.
I said, "Haven't cheered to your balloon, honey, because that was something else." I don't know what it was, but it was something else.
There ain't no balloon. Mm-mm.
No, ain't no balloon. Not this time of night. So, but anyway, you do a lot of night fishing, or do you just every so often get out there and do some night fishing?
Every so often. During the summers, I try not to, unless I am heavily coated in DEET and Thermacell.
I agree.
Because I love hunting. I'm a huge hunterman. And I love, just outdoors. I'm a huge outdoors person. And that's one of the things I do like about North Dakota. There's a lot of things I don't like about North Dakota. Yeah. But the things that I do like about North Dakota is the hunting here is amazing. And the fishing is amazing.
Well, it's an outdoor sport state.
Yeah, it is. Very much.
Few. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you hunt for?
Anything that moves.
Anything that walks. Even a bottle bass now and then?
Yeah, everything. If I need to, I use a DuPont spinner and throw in a lick and see if it blows up enough stuff. The sad thing is, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've been out in the woods a few times and do a lot of. As a matter of fact, I've spent so much time in the woods. You get this sense of direction when you're in the woods, and you can almost know which way you're going, not even by looking up, because you could feel. You know where you came from, and you know where you need to turn around and go back. And a lot of people that we camp with got in 5 acres of woods, and I had to go retrieve them once. And they're like,
I'm gonna tell you this right now.
What's that?
Where you're from, I can understand that.
Yeah,
but and in North Dakota, there is no woods. There's all like plains.
Well, we were in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is like they're only crazier.
But I bet you that if you was to go to Washington State or Oregon, that would be a completely different story. Because the forests, the woods are so dense. Yeah. I remember me exploring. I think I have it on my Instagram. I remember me exploring this one little area. I literally walked 20 feet in, and I lost all noise of traffic. And I was like, whoa, there's a whole new world in here. And I stood in there for half the day because I had to do a 34-hour reset when I was driving my truck. It was by Bonnie Lake, Washington. And I didn't get lost, but I was in love. I was like, oh, man, I could just, never go back to my truck. And that was a real thought there for a second. But I was like, no, I got to go back. They'll get mad.
Yeah, that's crazy. That whole thing is, you get out there and you get lost in the moment in your time because it's so peaceful. It's like it takes all the negative right off you.
Yep.
When you're out in the woods or out on the I've been out on a lake. I fished a tournament in Shelbyville, Illinois, as a matter of fact, on Lake Shelbyville. And we went way back, and it was like being on another planet almost, because there was nothing but woods and there was no houses, and it's like, wow, this is like way out in the middle of it. It was an hour. It was an hour down the road for us from the ramp, and it was like another world. It was great.
Yep.
So,
oh,
yeah, it was
when you feel all that, and it's funny because everybody, and I'm gonna talk a little bit hippie for a second, so bear with me.
Sure.
I'm not usually hippie at all, but where you're living in the city, there's a lot of positive electricity, a lot of positive, fields around you, like using the alternate currents and in the sockets and everywhere around you. But when you go to like into the woods, it's so grounding, and especially by like any sources of water or anything like that, like you feel like a lot of weight, a lot of energy is being dispersed off of you, and you feel better. Mm-hmm. Oh, me personally, you feel better going into the woods. And anybody listening right now, try this experiment. Leave your phone. Leave any electronic devices that you have and go to a park and actually enjoy the park. Stay there for about an hour. If you have allergies, I feel sorry for you, then don't do it. But if you have allergies, do not go to a park. You come out crying and miserable, don't do it. But if you don't have allergies, just go in there, relax, especially if the park has a lake, and just sit by the lake. No phone, no electronic devices on you. Leave whatever you have behind, right, and just relax. And if you don't feel better, there's something up with you.
Yeah, just listen to the sounds of nature. That's even when I'm out now, my lake is like surrounded by highway, not big highway, but roads, busy roads. And you get out in the middle of this lake, and you don't hear anything until you hear a fire engine with its siren going. But just to listen to the birds takes a lot of it. Takes a lot of that daily stress off of you. And I love being out there. Catching fish is a blast. But even if you're not catching fish, just that time that you're out there is just phenomenal. It's just
yep. And it's not as many as people will like to argue or say, the whole point of fishing is not really to catch fish. It's a byproduct of going fishing.
Right. It is. It's just being away from everything. But too, if you think about it, it's like mental chess, because you're fishing.
It is.
Fishing is a mental chess. It gets your mind working. What do I have to do to catch this fish? Now there could be 20 of them sitting there, but it's only one fish you're after. And when you're sitting on that boat or sitting on a bank, that one fish is all you're looking for. There could be 30 or 40 of them. It's that one fish. Which fish? I have no idea. I guess it's the one that bites.
And that's that one fish that just, just ain't that lucky.
Yeah.
That one day, and it'll throw your whole day into a whole uproar. You'll be like, yeah, got me a fish.
Now, do you catch fish and release it, or do you eat them?
So I do, depending on the fish.
Okay.
I've never ate bass. That's all catch and releases. I have eaten grouper. Love grouper nuggets. Oh, beer battered grouper nuggets. Oh, so flaky, so good. Oh, especially with that ranchero sauce. Uh-oh. What? Yes, definitely. I was told that if I was to ever catch walleye, and I throw it back, my friend will come out of the woods and shoot me, because I'm supposed to catch and keep every single piece of walleye I ever catch.
Walleye
if I don't eat it, go ahead.
No, I was just saying walleye is really good. I mean,
yeah, that's
even if it's cooked bad, it's still good. I've never had a bad walleye. I personally like them deep fried, because I like my fish as finger food. I don't like it as a dinner. I like it as finger food. I'll sit there and eat 3 walleye and go, okay, where's the steak? That's why that's why I'm at my 350 some odd pounds. But I love catching walleye. I just actually learned how to go after walleye a few years ago. I would catch them by just pure luck, throwing bass lures, because I never knew how to target walleye.
Nope.
And when I would go walleye fishing with my buddies, I'd catch all the bass and they'd catch all the walleye. I'm like, well, I obviously, this is a fish I'm going to not be able to catch. But I learned by using my bass lures, I could manipulate a few walleye to hit. Then I started buying walleye lures, and I was like, yeah, okay, well, this will work too. So, yeah. But walleye,
So from my understanding, walleye is usually stay at the bottom.
they stay near the bottom. The more water that's moving, the more they'll move. So if the water is moving really fast, they'll feed faster. Because they're using more energy. But I know when I went up to Wisconsin and we fished off Wisconsin Dells. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wisconsin Dells. But,
No, I just like the way you say Wisconsin. You say it just like somebody from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
So
Well, my family, my mother's side of family is originally from Wisconsin, and my dad's side of family is from Chicago. So, and I'm in between. Go figure.
and it's yeah.
I do have a fishing license for Wisconsin. I always get a fishing license for Wisconsin. We have friends that have property up north, so we go up there fishing too, up near Castle Rock.
Ooh. Wait, before you continue the story, I just have a small announcement to make. If you are part of Fish and Game Wildlife in any state and you happen to find Big O fishing, do not check for his fishing license because I will not have one most of the times.
Big
O. Oh, no. I'm dead serious.
You buy one, you just don't carry it?
I'm going to say yes, so that way I don't self-incriminate.
Big O, a fishing license supports you catching fish. Most of that money goes back to so I'm going to suggest heavily that you get a fishing license.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Because they'll stock the lakes and breed fish and all that other good stuff. And
absolutely.
I know in our state here in Illinois, and I know in Wisconsin, they use the money for the DNR and taking care of the lakes and habitat and everything else. So.
DNR, do not resuscitate? What?
Department of Natural Resources.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
DNR.
Makes sense.
Yeah, or do not resuscitate, whichever you prefer. So how is the fishing right now by you?
DNR.
So what you're saying is that it's
I have not
fishing.
caught anything since I started. No, any bass lake that's around here that's been stocked, I destroy. I know how to catch bass. But like I said, Lake Shakakawea is a very murky water. And I fished in murky water before, but it's just I don't know, what lures I need for that particular fish. Now, northern pike, to me, northern pike is the lazy, bigger version of bass.
Well, they're actually more cold-blooded than bass, so
the
colder the water, the better they move.
The personality, though.
Oh yeah, they're aggressive.
Is very, very, very aggressive, and they will hit anything. It doesn't matter what it is. They'll hit it, but once they hit it and they get caught, depending on how, just like bass, the small bass will give you the best fight, but the bigger bass, they just try to use their weight to throw around when they get tired, and then it's just like hauling in a rock. And that's my experience. I've caught a 15-pound northern pike. And I swear to you that I thought I had a tree branch coming towards me because it wasn't moving.
Then you need to go muskie fishing.
And but that's not here in North Dakota. That's in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's just another state over.
Yeah, that's 7 hours away, and that's just for me to cross the state. No, 6 hours away just for me to cross the state line.
Oh, so you're close to Washington State then?
No, I'm closer to Montana. I'm literally 15 minutes away from Montana. Yeah.
Wow. That's far. That's far.
It is.
It is.
I am 15 minutes away from Montana and 45 minutes away from the Canadian border.
Ooh. I was in Canada last year. Didn't fish, though. Wanted to, but didn't.
I need to get my passport because I am a huge archer.
Uh-huh.
And my favorite company that I actually started shooting my compound bows with is actually 3 hours away. Ooh. It's called APA Archery, and they're a Canadian bow company. And I'm not affiliated with them at all, not yet. But I am going to be getting a couple of bows from them soon.
Cool, that's very nice. Yeah, I don't have any sponsors either, by the way. So we're hoping to get some. It's that whole radio station thing. So
it's the whole radio station thing.
So anyway, it's fun to talk to you. And again, you're listening to WHIW 101.3 FM in Harvard, and this is the Angling Waters Outdoor Show. My special guest, Big O, from the
in the house.
From the UFO Buster. I guess you could call it just a radio show, but you guys do a lot more than that.
Yes, we are very different. Everything from YouTube to Instagram to Snapchat, everything that he can get his hands in. Manny Moonraker is on the ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to his new house yet?
Yeah, you even know he has a new house? I don't even know where it's at. He doesn't talk to me that
Texas,
much.
That's all I know. Oh.
He doesn't talk to me that much. He just, we don't talk that much no more.
Oh no, that's not good.
No, he's too focused on UFO Buster Radio, and not focused on Big O.
Well,
but it's okay.
It's growing. It's growing big. I mean, geez, it probably keeps his time busy. I know. He put out a couple of shows already this week, so.
Yeah, he doesn't invite me on to the show no more.
Oh no, you're gonna have to fight with him.
No,
well,
I figure I would just join the Dave Morning Show or
the morning show. Every morning. I'm sure he'd he when I told him that you were coming on my show, he went, "What?" I went, so yeah, we'll have to hook you up with him. Because
I have Dave's number, and we've done a couple of shows before, but he's such a good guy. Such a good guy. I really like Dave.
I blame him for all of this, because he talked me into going on to his show, and before you know it, he was, "Hey, why don't you give us a fishing report?" And I give him a fishing report. Next thing you know, "Hey, you really need to do a show." "Okay, I'll do a show." Mm-hmm. Here we go. I love it, though.
And now it's consuming all of your time.
Oh, fishing consumes all of my time anyway.
That's true.
I used to watch bass fishing before it was cool, and holy cow, fishing tournaments is a whole different ballgame.
So who is your fishing guy? Was it Bill Dance?
Oh yes, it's always been Bill Dance.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He is hilarious. He is hilarious.
And he's realistic about what he does. You want to hear something really funny? Few shows ago, I was talking about inline spinners and how I love to throw inline spinners. That Saturday, he had a show on inline spinners, and I went, "Uh-oh, great mind thinks alike." Well, then I talked about this Rattling Rogue. It's a Smithwick lure, and they have a lure. One of the lures, Rattling Rogues, actually you reel it down and it stays at that depth. So you can actually stop reeling and it'll sit there.
Oh, so it's neutrally buoyant.
It's neutrally buoyant. So when we were in Tennessee, we were fishing probably, believe it or not, about 20 feet from shore. And we were in 70 feet of water.
Wow.
And we would pitch these things up to the shoreline and just rip them down and you'd just wait. And all of a sudden you'd see these little dots. And then here come that dot to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, boom, up out of the water, we're catching 4 and 5 pound smallmouth.
Wow.
And it was hysterical. I've never done that again, but I can still remember it like it was yesterday. I'm going to the guy, aren't we a little close to shore? He goes, no, just throw it on the shoreline, and then just do this. And he ripped it back, and then he just sat there and waited. And then all of a sudden, here come the fish. All of a sudden, it's up out of the water, hooks in mouth. Like, that's cool. So, and we must have caught probably 15, 20 of them.
Wow.
They were just popping up out of the water like that. But you had to wait for them because they were all the way down at the bottom. And it was so clear you could see them coming up. It was great.
Wow.
Well, I was talking about that lure one day. Sure enough, the next show, he's got it. He's talking about it on his show. And I was like, this guy is... I've been watching him too much because now I'm thinking like him. It's crazy. In fact, on my bass boat, that crooked chair that he has, the crooked bar, I have one on my boat too now.
Wow. Well, it's not, if it works, it works, And it's just amazing when you buy something and you realize it works and you think you have like this golden nugget that nobody knows about this tool, and then you go on Google and like everybody knows it and you're the last one to know.
The great thing about this whole thing is a few years back when getting on the internet was getting popular for everybody and having their own webpage and everything, I signed up to his webpage, Bill Dance Outdoors. And I was picked. I was like the third person picked. I got an autographed hat from him.
Cool.
And it's still sitting up on my shelf up here. And I've had guys offer me $1,000 for that hat, and I'm like, no.
I'm telling you, he is a fishing legend.
He is.
And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
If you enjoy fishing in any type of way, and if you do not know who Bill Dance is, then there's something wrong with A, your childhood, or B, you have not lived until you saw Bill Dance mess up.
Oh, yeah. The bloopers are phenomenal. Oh. You know who else is good too, and I used to watch him too, is Roland Martin. Now, Roland Martin, unfortunately, he doesn't put out his bloopers like Bill Dance does, but when you're learning how to fish and different techniques, the same lure being used two different ways in two different parts of the country, catching fish, you learn to adapt those to what you're doing by watching two different people use the same lure. And that's what I did, is I would watch these guys, learn how they're doing it, and then that would be like spinnerbaits. There's like 50 ways to use a spinnerbait.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought you just threw this thing out there and reeled it back in. I didn't know.
No.
You stopped, retrieved it, you could jigsaw it back, you could, pitch it out, let it hit the bottom, and then rip it up, let it fall again, rip it up, let it fall.
Yeah.
There are just so many different ways.
I found that with the last one you're talking about, that one kind of does the best catching for me. It triggers a lot of predator response in a lot of fish.
Well, yeah, because it looks like it's a dying fish.
Yeah,
that's why I love plastics, because you can take a 7 or a 10-inch worm, and believe it or not, the bass will just tear these things up. And you just cast them out, and you let it fall, maybe 1 or 2 feet, and then you just raise your rod tip up and kind of shake it a little bit, and then just let it loop down, and all of a sudden you'll see that loop jump, and it'll jump again, and all of a sudden your line's going sideways, because those fish, they're just there's something about when it's dying, it's like they have to eat it. Largemouth and smallmouth and even spotted bass, they're so aggressive.
It's like 100% agree.
Yeah, they're so aggressive. And crayfish, if you take a plastic crayfish, rubber, or even the ones with the funky prongs on them, or if you use imitation jig and pig, throw it out there and just hop it along, same thing. They just pound it to death because it looks natural and it's in their environment. But anything dying, they'll just tear it up. I find that muskie and northern do the same thing in fall. If it looks like it's dying, you see the bass down there going, I'm going to eat that, and all of a sudden this big creature comes across and goes, no, that's mine. Okay. And
I usually
go ahead.
So what kind of tackle do you like to use? Me personally, I really enjoyed the feeling of something trying to hit it or about to hit it. So I'm usually very light tackle. Like borderline, borderline. I don't know if I'm going to bring this in, but I'm gonna try tackle.
I personally, I like light tackle for panfish, but I'm very big and not real gaudy, but I like the big rods because it gives me an advantage because I can keep the rod tip up enough to where I can watch the line. I'm a line watcher. I love to watch the line. I love to watch the line jump, unless I'm using a crankbait or something I have to retrieve. But I love plastics. I love to use plastics. I've got so many plastic lure molds in my garage that I can make my own plastic worms. In fact, when I use up a bunch of my worms, I'll throw them in, and when I get enough, 5 or 6 of one color, I'll make 5 or 6. Well, I actually only get about 4 of them. Plastic worms or plastic minnows or wacky worms. I've got so many. I've got probably 30 molds that I bought because I like to use certain things at certain times, or they're biting certain things at certain times, and I have different colors for everything. I've probably got 30 colors, and the plastisol that you use, I've got an old microwave sitting out there. You heat it up for a couple of minutes, and then you put the color in it, spin it, clear it up, stir it up, and then just pour your molds. It's all it is.
You ever? It's an old child's toy. They used to make plastic gummy worms or plastic stuff. It's the same thing. I'm telling you.
It is. In fact, when I was a kid, we had this thing called creepy crawlers.
There it is. That's what it is.
And it was plastic. You actually poured plastic. You made plastic crickets and all that other stuff. I made plastic crickets with hooks in them. Yeah. And my dad go, "Are you nuts?" And my uncle would go, "Let me take that," because he was big on fishing with that. He'd say, "Throw that one rod with that cricket overboard and just let it, sit there and float." And he said he'd catch more fish off that than he would the live bait. So
that's funny.
It is. It's. I love to fish, and I love that mental chess game. And when I take my 2 sons out, because they're both in their 30s, I don't have to try to impress them when it comes to fishing. What I do is I just do my thing, and then listen to them whine and cry because I'm catching all the big ones. Been there, done that, boys. Do this or do that. But I've got them trained enough over the years that they're not using the same thing I'm using. They're using something different, and they're fishing it a different way than I'd be using. So, they've learned that even though I'm catching them on plastics, I might be catching 1.5, 2 pounders. They're looking for that 3 or 4 pounder. So they say, "Yeah, Dad might have caught 20 fish, but I got the big one." So,
right.
But I would take either one of them in the tournament. I would have no problems with that.
Nice.
Because I've taught them the basics, and I've showed them that you got to have an open mind when you're out there, and you've got to be able to use your environment, what's down there, and go after that one fish. So it's worked out, and I'm sure it has for you too, and it will even further, because you got to continuously learn at this, because once you stop learning at anything, you've given up on it. So fishing,
exactly.
You have to keep adapting. Fishing is always different, always something, and anything you go out there, anytime you go out there fishing a lure that nobody else is using, you've just made a difference, because those fish haven't seen that lure, so they'll bite that faster than they will a spinnerbait or something, because they're used to seeing it. So
I'll tell you what, in the same pond that I learned how to bass fish, I somehow just thought in my mind to pay the extra buck.
Yeah.
And I went to a sportsman fishing warehouse, and I saw, you ever seen the live target lures?
Yes. Those are real nice. I got a few of those.
Oh, beautiful. Now, the one I got was a sunfish. Mm-hmm. It was like a dead fish on top of the water. And I'm looking at it like, it looks like they just used the same hook as a frog, like a floating frog. But it looks like a dead fish. Let me try it. That is the most exciting lure I've ever used so far. Now, you just put it on top of the water and watch it explode.
Top water fishing is awesome. And we could start the whole show over, only I get an hour. And we're pushing the hour. Yeah. We're pushing the hour. So I've got to thank you for coming on the show. And I've had a great time. We've whipped through this thing. But I got to have you back. So we're going to have to get back together. And I got to have you back, and we'll talk top water fishing and
no problem.
What else is going on? And definitely Big O from UFO Buster Radio and Fishing North Dakota. Awesome, dude. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it, man. I really do.
No problem, boss. All right. Y'all stay tuned and keep listening to Marty. Check out those fish tips. All right. Yeah, everybody be good. Laters.
Take care, man. Thank you for being here. That was Big O from UFO Buster Radio, and this is Marty Angler. You're listening to a special Angling Waters Outdoors. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to have to get out of here. We pushed our hour a little far this time, and you know what happened?
The Green Hornet's caught more fish than you've lied about, Gustafson.
Yeah, that's right. We got to put up with that. So anyway, as it goes on, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned some stuff. I hope the things that we talked about will help you in your fishing. Y'all take care. We'll see you tonight for Beardo's Roadhouse. Until then, this is Marty Angler telling you good fishing and ciao. Bye.
Okay, you go now. Show over. Mr. Angler say, you come back next week. Maybe we have more stuff. Bye-bye.
The Green Hornet's caught more fish than you've lied about, Gustafson.